I get asked all the time what plants to buy, where should I buy my plants, what plants are safe for a chameleon, what can I add in my enclosure. I get asked this all the time. So I figured it would be good to just take you guys along with me when I went plant shopping and kind of pick out ones that I think do well and ones that I don't think do well for a chameleon enclosure. So I always go to Home Depot. You can also go to Lowe's or your local nursery. Tons of different options. I've had really great success at Home Depot. I head straight for the nursery department. There's tons and tons of plants, and I'm no plant expert. I just know what plants have worked well for me, so I'm just going to give you guys advice. There are going to be other plants that you could also use in addition to these. These are just some popular suggestions. So you're going to look for house plants. These are going to be ones that do well with bright light, which would be good for a chameleon enclosure. They're also going to be safe for your chameleon. My number one recommendation will always be a pothos plant. Chameleons love munching on these. They're super viney, so they will really fill in your enclosure, and the leaves provide great coverage. Highly recommended that you put these in any chameleon enclosure. They're my number one plant. And this is just another example of a pothos plant in like a hanging basket. You can just throw that onto a branch and it'll do well. This is called a Hawaiian Ti plant. They gave it some weird name. I don't even know. Cordyline red, but this is great for a pop of color. Also, the stalks do really well for your chameleon to climb in. These can be a little tricky to keep alive in a chameleon enclosure, but I've had success so far. These are called snake plants. These are popular for geckos, but I don't really recommend them. Like, they're fine for chameleon, they just aren't super climbable is the thing. Like, your chameleon's not going to be able to really climb that or really hide in it. So yeah, it's kind of coverage, but there are better options. It's not because you can't climb it. And I like these ones, they have the yellow in them, but they're a cool plant. I just don't know if I'd put it in a chameleon enclosure. Yeah, you can see that's not super climbable. And this is some ivy. I've never used ivy in an enclosure before, but I imagine it would do really well because it gets super viney. So definitely could check this out. It's definitely safe for a chameleon. I just don't have any experience using it in my enclosures. And these are called canes. I don't really recommend them because, again, they're not very climbable. They're not super viney. They could climb the kind of like wooden middle part there, but other than that, they're not going to be climbing the floppy leaves. It's nice color, but again, not the best plant to use, but it would be fine to use if you choose to do so. This plant here, I don't have experience with, but I think this would be a great option for some coverage. Your chameleon could totally hide in there and feel safe. If you had some branches running through this, it would be great. Just, it's not going to support the weight of your chameleon, so you'd want to throw in some branches like through there so that your chameleon could climb it, but it would definitely give them lots of places to hide, which would be appealing. And here are more of those Hawaiian Ti plants. I stumbled across a few others, but look at those pinks. That would be so nice in an enclosure. They're just a little tricky to keep alive. And here's another popular one. Again, this is kind of similar as the mass cane. They could climb the kind of like wooden middle part there, but other than that, they're not going to be climbing the floppy leaves. So basically the same advice and comments as the mass cane. It's safe to use. It would be fine to use, just not my number one choice. And sometimes when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they do like these combination plants, and this could be tempting to purchase, but you're going to end up having to repot and replant these anyways, and probably into a different pot, and they come with pretty steep price tags. So I'd recommend just skipping over these. That's not even going to support the weight of a chameleon, so no thank you. And this would be a great coverage plant to give your chameleon places to hide. It's not going to hold their weight per se, but it'll give them hiding spots, which is always good. And those yellows, ooh, looking good. Okay, this one I actually purchased for one of my chameleon enclosures. I've never seen this plant before, but I love the floppy leaves. It's not going to be super climbable, but look, if you were a chameleon, at how many places you could have to hide in there. That's what makes this appealing. You want plants that are either climbable or hideable, and this one you can definitely hide in. Ferns are always a popular choice. These do well on the bottom of the enclosure. Again, hiding spots, not super climbable, but definitely hideable. So any sort of fern, this is what, a Kimberly fern, but like any fern is really going to be safe for your chameleon. And this is this kind of like funky purpley brown plant that I also hadn't seen before. Home Depot was doing a great job this year about the variety of plants that they had, but this would be good for coverage. Again, not super climbable. I love the big leaves of this plant because of the water droplets that could be on there, and if you had a baby chameleon, it could climb, you know, the stems of this, but a large adult chameleon isn't going to be climbing that, so it would be good for hiding. Palms do well as well. Palms like this, definitely for coverage, not so much for climbing. Babies can climb this, but the weight of adult chameleon is not going to be able to support this very well, but tons and tons of hiding places, which this would do well towards the bottom of an enclosure, and then you have some branches running through it. And this plant, which I don't remember the name, but I made sure to include it in the video, is very tall, and it's kind of like tree-like, and this probably wouldn't fit inside of a chameleon enclosure, but this would be great to free range your chameleon if you wanted to take them out and give them something to climb on. Like, look how sturdy. That's gonna be great. Not really the leaves so much, but definitely the trunk there. And your chameleon can totally climb that outside of their enclosure. Fiddle-leaf fig, that's it. A little bit of a price tag on there, but this would be great for your chameleon to free range. I just have a fake tree for my chameleons to climb on, but if you want to go real, that's an option. This is a hibiscus, so chameleons will actually eat the flowers of the hibiscus, so that could be fun for your chameleon. This is a fun yellow one that I found. But hibiscus are a great option for your chameleon to eat, actually. It's very safe for them to eat. All these plants would be safe for your chameleon to eat. That's why I recommend live plants instead of fake plants. This is a gardenia. This would do well as well if you wanted a plant that flowers. This would do well probably towards the bottom of an enclosure. Okay, and then I was being adventurous. I went to ground cover and to see if there was anything in here that might be good, and I actually found this creeping fig, which I have in my enclosure. I actually got it from Josh's Frogs. Probably paid too much for it because these are only like $5. But creeping figs do super, super well. They grow like weeds, and they go all over the enclosure and give coverage in your things for your chameleon to climb on. And this one was a creeping Jenny, which seems identical to the creeping fig, just a lighter green. So I actually ended up purchasing the creeping Jenny to see how it'll do my enclosure, because the creeping figs have been doing well by the heat bulb. And these are begonias. I love these. I got these last year and actually got mine to rebloom, so that's been pretty cool. They do really well with my Jungle Dawn LED bar, but these flower, they don't keep their flowers all year, just around spring and summertime, but definitely one of my favorites, and it was super cool to see those. This is called a Croton plant. These have the reputation of being toxic for other animals, and so people just assume like, oh my gosh, they're gonna be toxic for my chameleon. But veiled chameleon have eaten Croton plants with no problem. I've kept them in chameleon enclosures, no problem. Just because it's not safe for cats and dogs does not mean it's not safe for chameleons. There actually hasn't been any reported case of a chameleon eating a plant and then getting sick from it. It's just something that we're kind of projecting onto our chameleons. So take it with a grain of salt. Any plant safe list that you find. There's been documentation of chameleons eating hibiscus, which is what these are, just different colors. I thought these were pretty. The Croton plants, Pothos plants, are actually considered toxic for cats and dogs, and yet chameleons eat them without any issues. So like, what's the deal with that? But look at these hibiscus. I definitely picked up one of these. So if you do get live plants, then you'll want to repot them with organic potting soil. It doesn't have to be this brand, this is just the one that Home Depot had, but then you're going to take all your plants, dirts out, and then repot them with the organic potting soil to get rid of any sort of fertilizers, and that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learning about different plants that are safe for your chameleons, but again, this is not a one-stop list. Like, there's definitely more plants that you can add in to an enclosure besides these. I just know these are going to be good ones that are safe for your chameleon, and some of these I have had experience with, or I know other keepers have had experience with, so I feel comfortable and confident recommending them to you. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me any questions or comments down below. Let me know what plants you use for your chameleon, and maybe other keepers can get inspired by your plant selection. And feel free to subscribe so you know when I post a new video. You can follow Neptune and all my chameleons on social media at Neptune the Chameleon. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye! Neptune, what are you doing? You want to visit Gumby?